Yeah, well, thanks, Meredith, and thanks to everybody for putting your name and affiliations in the chat for us. It's nice for us, for our bookkeeping purposes, just to see who joins our Permafrost Collaboration IARPIC team meetings from month to month. So just a little introduction about IARPIC for those people that might be first-time callers here to this Zoom call, and also just a reminder to some of our veteran callers that consistently call into our collaboration team meetings every month. So IARPIC, actually, I'll ask a question, just do a little sound check here. Does anybody on the call know what IARPIC stands for? What does the acronym stand for? Larry, you're not allowed to answer. You're like the guy in charge, you're not allowed to answer. Any takers? Okay, well, it's the Interagency Arctic Research Policy Committee. It's kind of a mouthful. That's what IARPIC stands for. It was created in the 1980s in an effort to coordinate comprehensive national policy focused on research needs and objectives in the Arctic. So as part of the IARPIC umbrella, there's several collaboration teams, of which the Permafrost collaboration team is one of those. And so we work together to provide a platform that connects federal researchers with non-federal researchers, academics, other rights holders and stakeholders to kind of come together and work on some of these pressing Arctic research issues. And so the Permafrost collaboration team specifically has been charged with advancing understanding of the processes controlling permafrost dynamics and the impacts on ecosystems, infrastructure, as well as climate feedbacks. So one of the ways that we do that is by hosting these monthly webinars. We invite speakers that come together. We discuss relevant permafrost topics that spark both like online conversation discussion here, but then hopefully trickle over to offline discussions after the Zoom call ends. So I'm one of the Permafrost collaboration team co-leads, Benjamin Jones with UAF. And also on the call is John O'Donnell. John, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Hey, John, I work for the National Park Service Arctic Inventory and Monitoring Network. And yeah, I'm a federal co-lead for the Permafrost collaboration team.
Cool, thanks, John. Kristina Shadle, you want to say something?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kristina Shadle. I'm with the Woodwell Climate Research Center and have been with the Permafrost collaboration team, I think for 5 years maybe, so quite a while.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then our fourth collaboration team co-lead, federal co-lead, is Miriam Jones with the US Geological Survey. So yeah, this month's PCT presentation is coming to us from several members of the US Permafrost Association, or the USPA, or sometimes people call it USPA. But I prefer USPA, it has a nice ring to it. So 20 years ago, the USPA was started to help bring together a growing and also diverse community of scientists and engineering professionals serving society in Arctic regions. So we'll hear a little bit of an overview about the last 20 years of USPA activities. We'll have presentations from, I believe, 5 or 6 different people on the call today. Larry Hinzman, one of the early founders of the USPA, is on the call. He's now Assistant Director for Polar Science at the Office of Science and Technology Policy. And he's also the Executive Director of IARPIC. So we're lucky to have Larry with us today. We'll have Michael Lilly. Michael, you want to say hi, raise your hand, wave? Yeah, cool. We'll have Michael Lilly and Kristina Levine from Geo Watershed Scientific. Hi, Kristina. John Thornley with WSP Golder engineering firm, and also the current president of the USPA is here. Anna Wagner with Krell, presenting to us from the depths of the Permafrost tunnel, and also Kaytan Kelker with UAF. You want to say hi, Kaytan? So yeah, the team's gonna co-present today. They'll provide a historical background on the 20-year history of the USPA and cover some of its future plans. And more specifically, they'll discuss, why was the USPA initially started? What's the organizational structure of the USP like? Talk about opportunities to merge science and engineering disciplines, and then ways that the USPA provides student support and just in general community engagement amongst the permafrost realm. And then we'll wrap up with just whatever open discussion we might want to have about the USPA after the presentations are done, and then open it up also to general updates from the community. So yeah, now with that, I'll turn it over to Michael. Michael's going to control the screen and the presentations, and then Larry's going to kick it off by discussing a little bit of the background and the motivation behind establishing the USPA 20 years ago.
Thank you, Ben.
Welcome.
And we'll get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining this presentation today. And as Ben mentioned, our first speaker is Larry Hinzman, the Executive Director of the Interagency Arctic Research Policy Committee. Go ahead and say it, the whole title. Larry was also instrumental in that he was on the USPA Organizing Committee and was our president in 2003. So with that, Larry, please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Ben. Thanks everybody for joining. It's great to see so many old friends on the call today on the discussion. I think I may be have the record for knowing almost everybody on the call. I think there's one person there I don't recognize, but anyways, great to see everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is a proud moment for us. I was very proud to be among the founding members of USPA and still a life member of USPA. It was a great organization. It was a concept that wasn't developed by any single individual or implemented by a small team. It took a lot of us to pull this all together, and it's a concept that many of us recognized as being necessary, and many people stepped up to help us create and establish and maintain this organization. I do want to acknowledge and recognize Michael Lilly and Jerry Brown and Doug Kaytan as really being among the driving forces that contributed much of the muscle and sweat equity to bring USPA into being. So we owe a great deal of thanks to them. So, but why did we do this? And the first bullet really captures the primary reason. We needed a basis around which to organize. We needed a platform to share information and facilitate collaborations or promote an understanding among the funding agencies and other scientific disciplines that permafrost was and is important. It was recognized long before USPA was established that permafrost was a scientific and engineering challenge, and this was particularly reinforced during the 1983 Fourth International Conference on Permafrost. And it was during that 1983 Permafrost Conference that was held in Fairbanks that the International Permafrost Association was established. And so it was our contributions to the IPA and the necessity to have some arm of the IPA and some communications platform within the United States to the IPA that we decided to establish the US Permafrost Association. Michael, could you go to the next slide, please? So it was Simon Miller who coined the term permafrost in 1945. And the first International Conference on Permafrost in 1963 really set the stage for recognizing the need for further research in cold regions and emphasizing the value of international collaborations, particularly with Russia. And the fourth ICOP that was held in Fairbanks in 1983 really opened the public's perceptions of the need and value for permafrost research. This was shortly after the completion of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. So there was a large number of really excellent scientists and engineers who had great insights to share. And these proceedings, the 1983 proceedings, really remain a valuable resource for permafrost engineers and scientists to this day. And about the year 2000, the US Permafrost Community, which was then led by Doug Kaytan, decided we should host the ninth ICOP in Fairbanks, which required that the invitation be presented to the International Permafrost Association at the 8th ICOP, which was held in Zurich in 2004. And so that meant we really had to get our act together prior to that 2004 permafrost meeting and form that cohesive community to convene the NICOP. And therefore, USPA was born. And with that, I will pass the floor back to my friend Michael.
Thank you, Larry. So this is showing our current organization of the USPA. We have a board of directors that has the standard typical positions for nonprofit professional society. But we also have a diverse board that also has positions that represent our close relationship with the International Permafrost Association, or IPA, as well as PERN, the Permafrost Young Researchers Network. And the USPA has continuously grown and developed over the last 20 years. Our initial board was much smaller. We did not have committees, and the board and a few volunteers did all the work in the early years. We then formed committees that helped us in all of our activities. We've got two major types of membership, our international and corporate members and our individual members. A lot of the work that is done currently by the USPA is done through its committees. As I mentioned early on, we had standing committees that just were primarily board members coming together with a few others that did the work in the early years. And then we formed ad hoc committees that really, as Larry mentioned, we came together to form NICOP. So we had a very active group of people that to put on NICOP, led by Larry, Doug Kane, many others. And that was successfully carried out in 2008. Following the success of NICOP, we had funding that allowed us to start two major educational funds that are shown in our educational program committee, and that was our USPA Permafrost or USPA PERN Educational Fund. What acronym we use is UPEF. We also formed a USPA/UAF Educational Fund that was later rolled over into UPEF. Later that same year, under the guidance of Jim Rooney, Yuri Shore, who's actually in our audience today, we worked with the Permafrost Technology Foundation to focus on the need for permafrost engineering education. We received a grant from the Permafrost Technology Foundation for $50,000 to start a permafrost engineering education program, and that's what we call PEEP today. That same year, we formed the board, recognizing they needed continuity in terms of our communication to members and the public, and for a variety of different reasons, formed the Communication Committee, which was formed back in 2010. That was later followed in 2014 by recognizing the value that we had in all of our past presidents and their experience, leadership, involvement with the community. We formed the President's Council. This was followed in 2019 with the strategic formation of our membership committee. And later that same year, we also formed our diversity, equity, and inclusion committees. So these committees help carry out a lot of the work, guided by the board, and responsible for where we are today in many cases. We also, USPA from its beginning, has had key collaborations with various other organizations. Most important being the International Permafrost Association, where our early board had our IPA representative was a board position for USPA. Later, in 2018, associated with NICOP, this was the time that PERN was being formed. And strategically, we made a position on our board for PERN, so we would have a long-term interaction between the two organizations that would be strategic. Also, there were a number of other societies that from the very beginning, we were interactive in different ways with. The AGI, American Geosciences Institute, was one that we belonged to as an organization from our first years. ARCUS, continuous interaction, AGU annual meetings, etc., from the beginning, and also ASCE and their group of engineers interested in the Arctic and some of their subcommittees. So this was informal, ongoing coordination throughout our history. In 2012, we became a little bit closer with AGI when we formed the Permafrost Monthly Alert Program, which is done in coordination with AGI, leveraging all of their reference databases. Their largest one globally is GeoRef, etc. And so AGI members actually serve on our communications committee. And since 2012, we've had a strategic relationship with them. And then this year, John Thornley led the effort to formally, take the next step and form formal representatives with both AGI, ASCE, and we just recently formed a strategic partnership, or I would say membership with ARCIS, where we are becoming more strategically close with ARCIS to help both their mission objectives and our mission objectives jointly. This slide shows our leadership over the last 20 years in terms of our presidents. And as Larry mentioned, one of our primary goals was to be a different kind of organization that brought together science and engineering and integrated them. And our goals were, our goal is to sort of, as we can, switch, presidents each year between science and engineering. Doesn't exactly work out that way, but as you can see here, we've maintained a good balance in our leadership, which we still continue today, between science and engineering disciplines. And this has helped keep us balanced. It's a challenge, and it's one of our strengths. Looking at our membership over time with our individual memberships, going back into starting this plot just goes back to NICOP. We had low membership, and it tended to go up when we were going to have interaction with conference events such as NICOP and TICOP. Strategically in 2019, the board recognized the need for focus on encouraging membership and membership retention and developing new members across all the different forms of member types. And they formed the membership committee. And that helped increase our membership. And recently, or last year, in the 2021 regional conference on permafrost that was highly successful, we had a bump in membership associated with how it was a little bit cheaper to register if you were a USPA member. And this sort of shows you how we have grown over time in terms of our individual memberships and bringing the permafrost community together. And currently, across all types of memberships, as of October, we have 226 members. So a large thank goes out to Jerry Brown with his endless efforts on our membership committee. Our institutional and corporate memberships have always been part of our community and important to us, and this shows our 20-year history of having institutional and corporate memberships. They tend to cycle with different types of events that we do, and then it's become more stable again once in 2019, once we formed our membership committee. So we try to be inclusive in all categories and to continue to build our community with a long-term objective in mind. At the same time, there were many people that came before, as Larry mentioned, there were many people that came before USPA was formed. And one of the unique attributes of this organization is we recognize those that came before us, try to acknowledge those. And as we lose our members to different issues, we continue to recognize. So USPA is, we'd like to say, is something to join for your life endeavors. We recognize those that came before us to prepare and guide those that come after us. Just to show some of the many people that helped develop the early years for both science and engineering and develop the foundation of the permafrost community. So with that, I'd like to turn our presentation to John Thornley with WSP Golder. John is our current 2022 president and is currently leading us in all of our 20th anniversary activities. John, please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thanks for having us here today. Appreciate that, Michael, and everybody that's here today. Just quickly, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the conference organizations and organization activities and other kind of major activities that the US Permafrost Association has participated in, and give you a sense for that. We'll talk a little bit later about some of the other activities, but we've got our fingers in a lot of different aspects. And so starting back in 2008, we were involved heavily in NICOP in Fairbanks, then in Salikard in Russia in 2012. 2016 was the Icarus conference in Homer, and then most recently the 2021 regional conference on permafrost, which was virtual but held last fall So we can go to the next slide. So starting with NICOP, we again brought together more than 600 scientists and engineers from 31 countries for this international conference on permafrost in Fairbanks. It was a great 5-day event, which was also notably the 4th International Polar Year. So in 2008, and an outcome of that was a 2-volume set of papers and different reports that were kind of a culmination of that event. Next slide. In 2012, we participated in TICOP, and TICOP was an important conference because as it was in Russia, or in Russia, we thought it was important to help support the program and also provide English language publications for those of us that are in North America and not necessarily fluent in Russian, and wanted to make sure that we were getting that great information out to those practicing in North America. So we essentially helped raise a significant amount of money, and we're also supported through, we were able to help send students and young researchers to the conference, and also especially those that had papers and abstracts in that conference. So we also were supported by UAF and IARC through an NSF grant as well, to provide support for that conference and support for attendees. Next slide. In 2016, again in Homer, Alaska, we supported by providing some administrative support for the symposium, and also early career participation for remote sensing in permafrost. That was again in 2016. Next slide. And in 2021, as many of you that I saw here on the attendance roster participated in this event, the 2021 Regional Conference on Permafrost was our largest activity that the USPA has supported, and many thanks to Tom Douglas and others who are on the call today for their significant contributions to the efforts for getting this program out there. And we see it as a large success, mostly because it was a virtual event, which in 2021 we were all starting to get tired of. Here we are today, again another virtual event, but this was 4 days of a virtual technical program with more than 400 participants, and from a variety of countries, a majority from North America. And 280 presentations total. And just as a dangler out there, we'll hang out there that the abstracts will be published soon into a compendium of abstracts that you'll be able to download and review, and kind of remember some of the highlights of the activities from RCOP. In addition, we also have recently had an Anchorage workshop. So thanks to those who participated in the Anchorage workshop celebrating the 20th anniversary of the USPA. And we look forward to additional workshops and exercises there. I think with that, I'd like to turn time over to Anna Wagner with CREL and the incoming president of the USPA for 2023.
Thank you, John.
All right, hi everyone, and thank you for that, John and Michael. I hope you can hear me all right. And thanks everyone for joining this presentation. I am excited to be here to present a summary of the USPA student support. So to strengthen the future community of permafrost engineering and science professionals, USPA provides student support through several different awards and funds. And to date, USPA has provided over $85,000 in monetary awards and support to more than 200 students. So we have the Andrew Slater Memorial Award that began in 2017 and that was following the tragic passing of Dr. Andrew Drew Slater. He was an integral member of the Land Modeling Committee, whose work transformed our capabilities to simulate terrestrial processes and change in cold regions. So to honor his legacy and contribution to cold regions research, his family generously created the Andrew Slater Memorial Fund. We have the Irv Long Arctic Foundation's funds. He passed away, Irv passed away in 2012. He was a long-term supporter of USPA, and he was also the first lifetime member. He was an outstanding Arctic engineer and well known in the engineering community. So in 2018, PEEP, so the Permafrost Engineering Education Program, the committee established an award in honor of him. And as Michael mentioned, both USPA Pearn Educational Fund, UPEF, and Permafrost Engineering Education Program, PEEP, were established in 2009. And UPEF was established to promote the cooperative efforts between the USPA and the Permafrost Young Research Network, Pearn. And UPEF Fund provides support for the professional development of the next generation of permafrost researchers. They provide merit-based opportunities for travel grants to international and regional permafrost conferences and to AGU and also other scientific conferences. So USPA created PEEP as an educational initiative, and this was to promote engineering education and outreach for permafrost and cold regions engineering related issues. And PEEP has also provided support through student awards to conferences. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there have been over 200 USP student awards, and many of these awardees are still current members. And there were over 80 students awarded in 2008. And these were most of these awards, they were for students to attend NICOP. And this year, USPA, through different award categories, awarded 13 students to attend AGU in December. And please join our meeting that we will have on Tuesday during AGU week. Next slide, please. We've been encouraging diversity and inclusion throughout the life of USPA, and this graph shows the UPEF awards for the last 10 years, and it shows the breakout of gender for each year. So with a total of 76 UPEF awards, you can see that there's a really good mix between male and female awardees. And with that, I want to pass back to Michael, who will introduce Kristina.
Thank you, Anna. And I'll introduce Kristina Levine, who's an undergraduate geology student at Texas A&M University. She's also been for 4+ years on the USPA Communications Committee as an active member. Kristina, please go ahead.
So the USPA has several sources of public outreach. A few of our main ways are listed here, with first being our Permafrost Monthly Alert Program. So each month we partner with the American Geosciences Institute to search for all new permafrost related citations that become available. This includes conference abstracts, theses, maps, reports, and other publications. We alert the public every month and add all of these citations to our website and AGI's cold database, so anyone can search for them at any time. We also create a curated guide listing all of the permafrost related presentations at AGU each year. This way, for example, if you are at a poster session at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday at AGU and you want to know what permafrost presentations are going on around you, you'll be able to look at this guide and find out. On our website, we have several links with resources, organizations, and learning tools for K-12 educators who want to teach their students about permafrost and Arctic regions. We've also sent questionnaires out to K-12 educators before, asking them what resources would help them the most. And finally, we have all of our social media sites, our website, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, where we post opportunities, scholarships, events, and just cool permafrost news frequently. Next slide, please. So here are a few numbers for two of our outreach programs. The PMA program has been going on since 2012 with 135 alerts so far. And some of those are special alerts, which are from conferences or big events like that with permafrost. But we've been able to provide comprehensive updates of over 9,500 permafrost citations to the public and the cold database since then. For the AGU permafrost guides, we've been making those since 2018, so 5 guides so far, and our 6th will be this year's. In total, we've referenced almost 2,000 permafrost related references at AGU, including this year's, which has been pretty cool. So with that, I'll hand it over to Kaytan Kulkarni, a PhD student at UAF and member of the USPA 20th anniversary student team, so he can talk about USPA's future.
Thank you, Kristina. Kaytan, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Hi again. I'm Kaytan Kulkarni, and I will be outlining the future directions of the USPA. So to kick things off, the USPA offers a welcoming environment for science and engineering professionals, free from any form of discrimination and bias, to sustain an engaging permafrost community. The USPA also serves as a platform for student and professionals alike to join a growing community dedicated to conducting permafrost research endeavors and sharing their respective findings for overall scientific benefit. The USPA is not only confined to the involvement of students and young professionals, but it is determined to support scientists and engineers past their academic and corporate careers towards retirement and sustain their passion for permafrost research. The USPA, since its inception, has always embraced diversity in the form of gender and expertise representation. For instance, female members have always held positions on the board of directors, and permafrost engineers and scientists have had an equal voice in the operations within the USPA. We at the USPA strongly believe that the past is key to the future and will strive to sustain a well-represented organization. Next slide, please. We at the USPA will continue our partnerships with international cohorts and promote exchange of research ideas, methodologies, and novel research within the permafrost discipline. Climate change is placing a growing scientific and societal significance on permafrost research, as you can see in this image of the Pretty Rocks landslide at Denali National Park, which has closed the Denali Park Road since August 2021. And thus, permafrost thaw is a major climate tipping point, which has shifted focus to future policymaking, identification of varied environmental issues, and natural hazards for areas underlain by permafrost. We at the USPA aim to embrace more scientific expertise ranging from biology, geochemistry, and working towards regional planning. And in closing, and to reiterate, we at the USPA will continue with its purpose and remain focused for taking forward its foundational goals. Thank you all, and I'll hand it back to Michael.
Thank you, Kaytan. And that's the end of our presentation, and I'd like to thank all of our presenters. And Ben, I'd like to turn it back over to you, please.
Great, thank you, Michael. And thanks again, Kaytan, Kristina, Anna, John, and Larry for the excellent presentations and overview of the USPA and kind of everything it's contributed to a lot of people's careers over the last 20 years. I mean, I started my kind of early career research as an undergrad in 2001, so I was fortunate to kind of have this USPA blanket, around me for basically my whole career, which is pretty awesome. I remember going to AGU meetings as an undergrad, so maybe like 2003 probably was my first AGU, and I came to the USPA board meeting. It was kind of a long meeting. We sat there. A lot of it was just like talking about business and organizational structure and all sorts of those details. But then afterwards, we went out to a restaurant, and it was like catered food. It gave you the opportunity to network. So I think I actually met Larry for the first time there. Definitely met Michael for the first time there. It's just such a great association, and particularly for early career researchers. So I don't know if like all the people on the call, does anybody want to share any feedback to the USPA and some of its members that are here, or just talk about some of the ways in which the USPA might have helped your career out as you were getting going as an early career / mid-career researcher? Yeah, I know, for example, I think Kristina, myself, John O'Donnell for sure, I think we all benefited from some of these travel grants that the USPA would provide to attend AGU, which is like, it's pretty awesome, as an undergrad or a master's student to go to your advisor or supervisor and say, hey, I got some of my own money to go to a conference. It's a really cool feeling. I don't know, Kristina, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I actually think TICOP was the bigger change in my career. I got funding from USPA to go to TICOP in Siberia, and I made lots of great connections with other earlier career scientists, and I'm still friends with them and still collaborate with them. And it's kind of fun to remember that it goes back all the way to TICOP in Siberia. I also got AGU funding once, which had less of an impact because it was one of many AGUs, whereas the Siberia conference was pretty particular. So it was fun.
Cool. Thanks, Kristina. Anybody else want to chime in and offer any? Yeah, Joel, go ahead.
Hi, y'all. My name's Joel. I'm a PhD student at the University of Washington. I also ended up getting a USPA travel grant for AGU, which was wonderful. But I just wanted to note, especially that first AGU, I jumped from physics to kind of permafrost science and civil engineering. And that first USPA meeting in person, just getting to meet so many wonderful people and get to know the community in a really friendly room with catered food and a bunch of wonderful people, I think really started a bunch of collaborations and also friendships really rapidly in a way that just going to, a 20,000 person conference without that kind of opportunity would have never happened. So appreciate it.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Joel. I guess, yeah, now since we've been talking a little bit about AGU here, Anna, you mentioned that at the upcoming AGU, there's going to be another USPA sponsored event. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that for people on the call?
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to have our annual meeting, and that's going to be on Tuesday 14th, I think. Anyway, it's Tuesday AGU week. And we're going to host, that's going to be hosted at Kralls. It's a bar, so it's going to be a nice venue, we believe. And yeah, it's going to be catered food, and we're going to have a little business meeting at first. And yeah, it's going to be great to kick that off again after all these COVID years. So yeah, excited to see everybody there. And we'll send out a notification on the USPA membership. So a bit more details on where. I think one has gone out already, but yeah.
Great, thanks, Anna. Yeah, very much look forward to that on the Tuesday of AGU week.
Yeah. Ben, we're also, USPA is going to have an exhibit booth. It's going to be adjacent to the NSF community area, also close to the ARCUS booth. And so during the whole exhibit period, USPA will have a presence there. We invite everybody to stop by. I'll contact some of you actually about making contributions to this, and there'll be some of the typical booth bling that's there. If you stop by, and you're lucky, you're going to see John Thornley, and you'll understand, and you'll get to learn kind of what's John's favorite USPA hat to wear. And if you're really lucky, you may get one. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Michael. Are you all looking for any volunteers to help with the booth there, or do you have that all covered so far?
Oh, definitely looking for volunteers and ideas and what would make it fun and having people to stop by, etc. So Ben, the coastal group, I want to make sure you're represented there also as you're part of the community. So I'll be in touch with you after that. And if you're interested in volunteering, if you can get hold of John or myself, that would be much appreciated.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, actually, yeah, really quick, I'll go ahead and I'll post. I'm not sure if everybody on the call is a member of USPA, but I just put the link in the chat there for those people that might want to become a member of the USPA for the first time, or if you want to renew your membership and or elevate your membership to the next level to become a lifetime member. Yeah, the details are all on that link, and then in the upper right of that website, you'll see the blue button that says join or renew now.
One thing I'd like to mention too is that we've been really fortunate to have some really strong permafrost researchers who have remained engaged and taken a real active leadership role in permafrost science and in USPA over the last, well, in permafrost research over the last many decades. But you know, we've always focused on the importance of engaging young researchers to come in and help them establish themselves in their career and help them advance the permafrost science and engineering. That's always been really important to us. And I think that has had a big impact in the USPA, always having a forward-looking vision, in that we build on our history, we build on what we know, but also we're trying to take on the challenges that are coming at us down the pike. And so, you know, I'd like to ask you all here now, you know, what is the future? Where should we be going? What should be the challenges we should be looking forward to? What do we need to do in the coming decade and, you know, the coming decades? You know, where does USPA need to go from here? So I'd like to get some ideas and suggestions from the group today.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Anybody want to jump in?
I guess I got a couple of comments. Thanks, Larry, and it's great to see all these faces. To back up just a touch, I would say for early and mid-career people, being on the board is a really nice way to kind of put your toes in the water of obviously doing some service, but meeting a ton of people and whatnot. So I recommend that. I mean, everything from student and up. I think a lot of us have done different roles on the board. You start as sort of secretary or treasurer. It's kind of an easy situation. And then there's kind of the president-elect, president, past president, kind of 3 years. You can kind of dovetail. Anyway, a shout out for that. As for kind of Larry, your query here, you know, we've talked a lot over the years about kind of co-sponsor and getting involved with other meetings. So obviously there's the ICOPS and the RCOPS. You know, Ben, you've been part of some of those remote sensing meetings and others. And I think that's a way to integrate our community with others and help get the word out and whatnot. So I think where possible, I would suggest finding ways to co-sponsor or co-host or co-whatever more kind of topical meetings in addition to the current sort of regional international slate.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I can't say enough about how instrumental the USPA was in helping with that 14th ICRSS in Homer. That was a super critical role that they played for us to be able to pull off a successful conference. Yeah, Catherine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, as a fairly new person to USPA, that I really appreciated several months back when I was able to go to ASSW in Tromsø in person, the first big in-person meeting as COVID started to wind down. And from listening to Ben, what you've said, and Kristina and some of the others, the value of going to a meeting in person and being able to make those contacts and have those, you know, coffee break talks and make those connections. It was important to me as a new volunteer, but I really see the value of it from your comments for the young researchers. And, you know, particularly for young people who have grown up having so many interactions happen virtually, as USPA goes forward, our ability to say, hey, what happens in person is really important and can really be a springboard in people's careers, and we'll help finance you to get there. I mean, for Kristina to, you know, gosh, go to Siberia, it's just amazing. So I think continuing to provide that valuable in-person contact is something that we can do and continue to be very proud of.
Yeah, totally agreed. Thanks, Catherine. So yeah, one person I think we should acknowledge here on the call is Jerry Brown. He's definitely been pivotal throughout the whole of the last 20 years, 20 years before that, and probably the 20 years before that, just in terms of helping guide permafrost research and just the trajectory of US permafrost research in general. So thank you, Jerry. And would you like to say anything?
Well, possibly. I'll mention that my keyboard misspelled my name, which is unfortunate. Yeah, it's great seeing so many old friends and some of the newer faces. I did note there are 6 of you on the line that are not members of the USPA. I've been chairing the committee, membership committee, so I keep track of these things. What we should mention, Anna should elaborate on this. We do have a special session at AGU. Unfortunately, it's on a Friday afternoon. The poster session's in the morning, and it's an all-Alaskan session on permafrost, and hopefully a lot of us will be tuned in on it. We had 29 abstracts. I believe there are 7 oral presentations. A couple of those will be virtual. So in any event, please make sure that when Kristina gets out the compilation of all the abstracts, to be sure to make sure that Friday afternoon is reserved. I know a lot of people will be wanting to go home before the end of the week, but ideally you'll all tune in. Anna, I don't know did you want to say a few words about our session? We know we're going to have a good social event Tuesday evening, but hopefully it'll be a good scientific event on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry, for putting a plug in on that. I think you covered it really well, and I hope that you all will stick with it through the end, and it's going to be a great session. We got some really, really good speakers, and posters.
Great. And thanks to you, Ben, because I do remember your early career as an undergraduate. It's incredible that the years go by so quickly. So keep up the good work, all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. Much appreciated. Yeah, Melissa?
Yeah, I'm thinking about kind of Larry's question of where to go from here and what can USPA do within the greater permafrost kind of community. I didn't realize that so many of the education fund grants, travel grants, were awarded to female students, which I think is amazing. And I'm thinking moving forward, where it's just, since a lot of permafrost science is field-based, and as in-person meetings are going, is maybe thinking about how to make these things more family-friendly and to retain women and families within the permafrost science. So I'm really lucky that Ben and we make a great team, and actually our daughter Lillian, she'll be coming to AGU with us, and she comes to the field with us. But maybe considering something like doing caregiver grants, for example, AGU this year doesn't have any childcare options, and I don't know if they'll do it in the future, but maybe that's something USPA could do to provide maybe funding for people to hire a babysitter so they can go to the conference. Yeah, just something to think about.
Great. Thanks, Melissa.
I'd like to second that, in that so in IASC, we also, the International Arctic Science Committee, we also promoted a similar effort. We in USPA, we really focused on providing student support, mainly through travel grants. In IASC, we really focused on fellowships, but the purpose is the same. What we wanted to do was really identify great people early in their career and somehow keep them in. We were in cryospheric sciences, and IASC we were looking at Arctic science, and in USPA we're looking at permafrost. But we just want to really keep the great people engaged in the Arctic region and in cryospheric sciences, and whatever we can do to help young people engage and be successful in their career, that's beneficial to our association and to our nation. And so we really should try and figure out how we can make that happen. So, Melissa, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. And I second that, Melissa. In 2008, a good portion of our workforce for NICOP were my kids, Larry's kids, Doug Kane's kids. So I think in looking at some of our major events, we've been kid friendly, and it's a great offshoot. And I've seen y'all bring kids to AGU. Mine are now quasi married or very independent. Don't listen to me anymore. That happens when they grow up. But I think it's good to continue that and bring this point up as something that we should figure out how to make that happen. So thank you for bringing that up again.
Great, thanks, Michael and Larry. Yeah, again, Larry, thinking about that question a little bit more, I really think the role that the USPA plays in bringing together, the scientific side of things and the engineering side of things together, focused on permafrost and implications of permafrost thaw, how it impacts infrastructure, how infrastructure impacts permafrost, is really like kind of the key for the future in terms of coming together and helping out some of the native communities, indigenous communities in Alaska and across the Arctic that are, now grappling with some pretty drastic changes going on in basically the foundation that supports their livelihoods. So maybe John, can I ask you a quick question? John Thornley. So this, you said you just had a workshop in Anchorage that brought scientists and engineers together. Do you plan on doing more of those, like kind of these regional workshops for people to get together in person and discuss research and engineering issues?
That's a great question. It was a very well received workshop. We had over 40 participants register and show up for the workshop, and yeah, like you said, various scientists, engineers. We actually had folks from Utqiagvik also show up and talk about an ice cellar project that they're working on, and so that was also a great kind of addition to the program. And I think the big feedback was we need to do more of these, and so I think we'll be looking at doing one probably next year here in Anchorage. I know that Michael and Larry, I don't want to put them on the spot here, but they've been kind of kicking around something up in Fairbanks as well, and so we'll see what that looks like. Maybe it's not this year, but maybe next year for that. Or no, it's I think that the community is hungry for it, and I think that we are in a really good place to reach out and connect engineers and scientists that are interested in and working in the permafrost regions to kind of help share that. I think one other aspect that I feel is important is, especially on the engineering front, the old adage of if it's frozen, keep it frozen may not be as applicable anymore as we look forward to the next 50 years, 75 years of design life for structures. And so connecting scientists and engineers together to talk about especially the changes in the region, and that is more important than ever. And so I think the USPA plays a really key role in making sure that those connections happen and that dialogue continues.
Great, thanks, John. Yeah, well, we're getting pretty close to the bottom of the hour. I was going to ask anybody else would like to chime in really quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, so we are actually planning a permafrost and infrastructure symposium in Utqiagvik and along the Dalton Highway next summer. So I'd be interested in talking with you, John, about some of your insights about how to make those conversations as fruitful as possible in a short space of time, maybe learning from what you've already, some of the conversations that have already taken place in Anchorage. And that also would be an opportunity for if USPA wanted to help sponsor that conference. We should talk about that too.
That'd be great. Thanks. Let's talk.
Thanks, Jana. Yeah, look forward to that symposium next year. Well, nice job, everybody.
I'd like to say.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Larry.
One last thing I'd like to say really quickly is just thanks for your comments about the future, and I just wanted to note that I don't know how many of you have been following the COP27 discussions, but permafrost has made it into a lot of those presentations there. And so, looking back over the last few decades, things have changed a lot. And so permafrost really is emerging as an important scientific topic, and clearly as a critical engineering issue for the Arctic regions. And so, congratulations to everybody. You're having an impact. So with that, I'll add my thanks to the organizers. So thanks, Ben. Thanks, Kristina. Thank you very much for everything that you've done, and I appreciate being part of this.
Yeah, thanks to you too, Larry. Yeah, and thank everybody again for all of our all the speakers today. A little round of applause. Nice job. Great presentations. It's awesome to see the history there. I definitely, I've been a part of USPA for the last 20 years, but it's always nice to learn something new along the way. Jerry, do you want to close us out really quick? Any concluding remarks from you, Jerry?
I have to turn my speaker back on. No, I think you guys and gals have covered it all. We are preparing a 20-year history report, which will include a great deal of what's covered today. And hopefully it'll be a draft will be available at the AGU booth, Michael, when we at AGU. So I think the next big step is going to be the AGU, both the social that Tuesday evening, the booth, and then the final session on Friday. So a lot going on within the community, our USPA community. And Ben, you're still on our membership committee, so by all means, keep pushing the membership as you have done before.
Hey, I will do. Will do. I did get I was able to wrangle somebody as a lifetime member this year, by the way.
Yeah, should we say who it is? I already announced it's the first woman lifetime member. Shall we say who it is?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's part of your household, and it's not your daughter.
Yep. Yeah, congratulations, Melissa. Yeah, she's the first female lifetime member of the USPA.
I think it was 14. There are 14 members plus one corporate member.
Good. Well, thank you, Jerry.
Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, thanks everybody for the great presentation and conversations today. See you, a lot of you, in about a month in Chicago.
Thanks, everyone.
We're to it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael,
Bye.
for pulling it together.
Yes,
Yeah,
thanks,
thank you.
Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.